Hello, welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm making 3-ingredient buttermilk biscuits. Now I get a lot of questions about biscuits. I have people say that mine fall apart or they're not flavorful or they don't rise. There's just all kinds of things out there and questions that I've been asked, but I will say this is really more about technique than it is the recipe. It's about how you put this biscuit together that really makes that light and fluffy texture versus the recipe, although we do know that the recipe is important. Now, the first thing that needs to be done before making your biscuits is preheat your oven to 450 degrees. Let your oven preheat before you start making your biscuits. You want that oven nice and hot, and preheating it beforehand just ensures that it's going to be the right temperature. The second rule of thumb is cold ingredients. I even keep my flour in the refrigerator. Now I have some self-rising flour and I'm using 2 cups of flour in this recipe. And I am not scooping my cup into my flour because that is how you get too much flour really quick in a dry biscuit. We don't want dry biscuits. Now this looks just right. I don't even think I need to level it. And here we go with number 2. And in it goes. The self-rising flour just eliminates a lot of the guesswork. The baking powder, the salt is already in the flour, so it just saves time. If you want to go old school, you can definitely do that. Now I've got my butter. Like I will always say, I believe that butter makes everything better. Now this is good and cold. As a matter of fact, I let it sit in the freezer while my oven was preheating because the minute my fingers or hands touch this butter, it starts melting fast. And I use my cheese grater for my butter. You know, you see those recipes that say, make it look like peas, cut it in, do this and that. Well, if you'll shred your butter, you take all the guesswork out of it. Now, I've shredded about 1/3 of this, and I'm going to go ahead and start stirring this into my flour. My flour is cold, and by stirring this in, first of all, I'm going to keep it from clumping up, and second of all, it's going to stay nice and cool. So I'm going to do that about twice for this stick. And I am reserving just a tiny little bit. I'll show you that in a minute. Now I'm going to stir this last little bit in. There's nothing better than a homemade biscuit. They have always and will forever be my husband's favorite food. I can say biscuits for dinner and he's in. And they're so easy to make, y'all. Like I said, once you learn these few little tips and tricks, you'll have perfect biscuits every single time. Now this looks just right. See how that's nice and crumbly? And I've got all that flour scooped up from the bottom and it's incorporated in with my butter. No cutting, no guesswork. It's perfect every single time. Now I'm going to make a well right in the center of my flour, and I've got a cup of cold buttermilk. Now I know I sound redundant, but listen to me. Cold ingredients make a light, fluffy biscuit. It's just the way it goes. Now I'm going to go ahead and pour this entire cup into my dough. I know I've made this recipe so many times. I know it's going to be perfect. And what I'm going to do is just stir from the sides, not the middle. You just want that buttermilk to work into that flour. And just go around, just like I'm doing. Now there's going to be a few scragglies at the bottom, and that's okay. Don't try to work that extra flour in. If you do, you'll have a tough biscuit. Just let it be. Your dough will tell you how much flour it needs. Now I'm just going to go ahead and get this out. Now, a little bit more flour, and we're going to pull this dough together. This is the next to the most important step. We don't want to overwork our dough. We're not using a rolling pin. I'm just patting these out with my hands, and I'm pushing this dough together. Look at that. It's already beautiful. It's the perfect consistency. It's not too dry. It's not too wet. Now, to make those flaky biscuits, they're not quite like those canned biscuits where you pull the layers off, but they're pretty close. Take your dough, shape it into your triangle or your oval shape, whatever, and then take the end and fold it together, and then press your dough again. We're going to do this 5 times. Every time light and gentle. We're back over. Look at that. Perfect. There's 2. Each time we're going to pat a little bit. Don't mess with the sides too much, because if you do, you won't get that flaky biscuit. And again, 3, 4, and 5. And that's it. Now we're going to press this down until we get about 3/4 of an inch thick. Just press it just lightly, ever so lightly. Now, let me get this excess off. Just put your hands together and roll, and look, it comes right off. You still need a little bit on there because we're still going to cut them out, but it gets the gooey part off. Now, just push that aside. Now, I am not buttering this skillet. This is an 8-inch cast iron, and I'm not buttering it because there's enough butter in here, but this little bit of butter is going to make a huge difference when the biscuits are done. I'm going to melt it and brush them over. Now, you can use just your regular dough cutter. This is a regular size biscuit cutter. This is a little bit smaller, and Jimmy and I like the smaller biscuits. I'm not sure why, we just do. Now, don't twist. And look, you can already see those pockets in your biscuit. Oh, y'all, these are going to be so good. And just going to pop them out right in my pan. Now, biscuits are team players. You need to put them close together, and you need to put them close to the edge of your pan because they need each other, and they need that pan to rise taller. They need something to climb on. Now I'm going to take this leftover dough. It won't be quite as pretty as those first ones, but it will be just as good. My mother used to always take the ends and pieces of the biscuits and make me my own special biscuit. And I knew when those biscuits hit the table that those were mine. You better not touch them. And there's a little tiny one. And there we go. I've got 11 biscuits. Now you can double this recipe easily and make a whole pan of biscuits, but this will feed Jimmy and I for several days. Now my oven is screaming hot. Remember, we've had it preheated to 450 degrees, and these are going to cook for about 15 minutes, just until they're light and golden brown. Let's see how we did. Oh, y'all, the kitchen smells so good. I mean, it smells good. If my husband didn't already love me, I'm sure that he would fall in love with me all over again if he walked in and saw these biscuits right now. Now, I melted that extra butter, and I'm going to butter the tops of these. Even though we're cooking these to a light golden brown, they become more golden brown when you put the butter on them. It just kind of accentuates the gold. Another reason to love butter, as if we needed it. Now, Let's get one of these biscuits out. Look, y'all. Look at these layers. That's perfection right there. And I tell you what, if you follow the recipe and the tips that I shared with you, you will have perfect biscuits every single time. They'll be consistent. They won't be crumbly. They'll be flavorful and delicious. Now let's just cut into one of these. Look at that. Just a little bit more butter. Just because I can. A little bit of strawberry jelly. Okay. Here we go. Y'all, I hope that you can see this. These are so moist and flaky, but they're light and fluffy. They're absolutely delicious. This is perfection right here. And they're so easy. Please, please, please try your hand at biscuits. Don't give up. I've had so many of you say, I've given up trying to make homemade biscuits because they fall apart or they're never this or they're never that. Please try this. Try these few tips and techniques that I've shown you. This is the perfect recipe. And I can assure you, once you get it right, you'll never go back. You're a blessing to me. Thanks so much for watching today. Will you press that like button and share this with your friends? And also make sure you're following me at Kathy's Southern Kitchen on Facebook, YouTube, and my webpage, kathyssouthernkitchen.com. Oh, y'all. Well, Jimmy will be home soon, and he is going to be one happy guy to see these biscuits. If I don't eat them all first. No, I wouldn't do that. I'll see you next time. Bye.